Cole Brassier had been a paramedic in Knox County, Tennessee for 13 years before his back gave out on a stairwell carry in 2019. A 340-pound cardiac arrest on the third floor of a walk-up apartment in Mechanicsville. No elevator, no second crew. Just Cole and his partner and a stair chair that wasn't rated for the weight. And when his L4 vertebra herniated on the landing between floors 2 and 1, it made a sound like a walnut cracking, and his left leg went numb from the hip down, and he finished the carry anyway, because the man was dying, and the ambulance was 40 steps below. He was 42 now, 6'2", 260 pounds, with a chest like a truck bumper, and arms that were thicker than they'd been when he was lifting patients, because now he was lifting steel, running a custom welding and fabrication shop off Chapman Highway called Brashear Iron, building railings and gates and trailer hitches for half the farms in Sevier County. His beard was dark, streaked with gray at the jaw, trimmed short enough to fit under a welding hood, but thick enough that his daughter said it looked like a doormat. His forearms were covered in ink, a detailed caduceus wrapped in a stethoscope on his left forearm, the star of life on his right wrist, and both arms sleeved from wrist to shoulder with smoke and ironwork patterns that his buddy at Sacred Ink in Maryville had spent 2 years finishing. His knuckles were tattooed with block letters, first on the left, last on the right. The paramedic's creed, first on scene, last to leave. He wore a black leather vest with the Iron Creek MC center patch, an anvil in a creek bed with smoke rising from the metal, his vice president diamond, and a thin enamel pin shaped like an ambulance that his old partner had given him the day he turned in his badge. Subscribe to Asphalt Angels and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because this story starts with a girl in a backseat who waved at every biker she saw for 61 miles, and only one waved back. Cole was riding south on I-75 between Knoxville and Chattanooga on a Saturday afternoon in September. Blue sky, 78 degrees, the kind of Tennessee afternoon that makes you remember why you bought a motorcycle in the first place. He was on his 2017 Road King, running about 65 in the right lane, helmet on, sunglasses on, saddlebags loaded with welding samples he was delivering to a customer in Cleveland. Traffic was light. The mountains were turning the earliest shade of orange at the ridgeline. His back was aching the way it always ached after 60 miles, a low-grade hum in his lumbar spine that never went away and never got worse. Just sat there, reminding him that the stairwell carry had taken something permanent. He noticed the van at mile marker 48, a dark blue Dodge Caravan, early 2000s model, riding in the left lane about 3 car lengths ahead of him. It had Georgia plates. He noticed because the plate frame was cracked and hanging at an angle. The van was doing about 70, steady, nothing unusual. Tinted windows, a dent in the rear quarter panel on the driver's side, a bumper sticker he couldn't read from this distance. What he noticed, what made his paramedic brain flag it before his conscious brain caught up, was the hand. A small hand, pressed flat against the inside of the rear window on the passenger side. Not knocking, not slapping, just pressed there, fingers spread, the way a child presses a hand against glass, to feel the cold or to be seen. Then the hand waved. A small, deliberate wave, not the fast, excited wave a kid gives a truck driver to honk the horn. This was slow. Palm flat, fingers together, a controlled side-to-side movement that looked rehearsed, like a child who had practiced waving in a way that wouldn't attract attention from the front seat, but might be visible to someone riding alongside. Cole watched the hand. He was 3 car lengths back, right lane. The van was left lane. He could see the hand clearly through the tinted glass. The tint was dark, but the afternoon sun was behind him, lighting the interior enough that the shape was unmistakable. Small. 5 or 6 years old, based on the size. The hand waved again. Same motion, same speed, same deliberate, practiced movement. Then it stopped. The hand disappeared. The window went dark again. Cole rode for another mile. The hand came back. Same window, same wave, same flat palm, same controlled motion. It waved for about 10 seconds, then disappeared again. And here was the moment. The one that splits every one of these stories into two roads. Because Cole's paramedic brain was doing what it had done 10,000 times on ambulance calls, running triage, assessing the scene before he arrived at the patient, reading the signs. A child waving from a back seat is normal. Kids wave at truckers and bikers and anyone who makes eye contact on the highway. That's what kids do. But this wave wasn't that. This wave was too slow, too controlled, too deliberate. This wave was a signal, and signals are different from gestures because signals are sent to a specific audience, and gestures are sent to everyone. But what if the kid was bored? What if this was a long car trip and the kid was entertaining herself by waving at passing vehicles? What if Cole was reading a situation through 13 years of paramedic pattern recognition and seeing something that wasn't there? He sped up, moved into the left lane, pulled alongside the van, not close, not aggressive, just in the next lane at the same speed, the way bikes and cars share highway space every day. He turned his head slightly toward the van. He could see the side of the rear window now, different angle. The hand was back. It was waving, and this time Cole could see the face behind it. A girl, small, maybe 6, with brown hair pulled back in a ponytail that was messy the way ponytails get on day 3 when nobody's redone them. She was looking directly at him. Not at the motorcycle, not at the road, at him. Her eyes were locked on his face the way a person's eyes lock on someone when they are trying to communicate something that cannot be spoken. Cole waved back. The girl's face changed. Not a smile. Something faster and more desperate than a smile. A flash of recognition, of being seen, of the wave working. Her mouth moved. He couldn't hear her through the glass and the highway noise and the helmet, but he could read the shape of it. 3 syllables. She said it twice. Help me. If this story has touched your heart, share it and subscribe to Asphalt Angels, because a 6-year-old girl waved at every biker between Knoxville and Sweetwater, and out of all of them, one waved back, and that wave saved her life. Cole dropped back. Not because he was retreating, because he was thinking. 13 years of paramedicine had taught him that the worst thing a first responder can do is act fast and wrong. Act fast and right, you save a life. Act fast and wrong, you make the situation worse. He needed to get the plate, get off the highway, and get someone with authority involved. He pulled his phone from his vest pocket, writing one-handed, something he'd done 1,000 times on calls when dispatch needed a status, and opened the camera. He zoomed in on the rear of the van, Georgia plate. He took 3 photos, wide, medium, close, until he had one clear enough to read. He texted the Iron Creek group chat. I-75 South, mile 46, dark blue Dodge Caravan Georgia plates, kid in backseat mouthing help me. Need brothers at the Sweetwater exit now. GPS pin. Ox responded first, the chapter president, a retired Knoxville Fire Department battalion chief who lived in Loudon. 8 minutes to Sweetwater, then Piston from Athens, then Forge, then Clamp, then Rivet. 5 riders heading for the same exit. But Sweetwater was still 12 miles away, and the van was doing 70, and Cole had to keep eyes on it without being noticed. He fell back 4 car lengths. The van stayed in the left lane. The hand appeared again. Same window, same wave, same slow, deliberate motion. The girl was still waving. She'd been waving at bikers for 61 miles, Cole would learn later. 61 miles of pressing her palm to the glass and waving at every motorcycle that passed and getting nothing back. No wave, no nod, no acknowledgement, until Cole. He called 911 at mile marker 44. 911. What is your emergency? My name is Cole Brassier. I'm a retired paramedic, member of the Iron Creek Motorcycle Club. I'm riding southbound on I-75, currently at mile marker 44. I'm following a dark blue Dodge Caravan, early 2000s, Georgia plates. He read the plate number. There is a female child, approximately 6 years old, in the rear passenger seat. She has been waving at passing vehicles in a deliberate, distressed manner. When I pulled alongside, she mouthed the words, "Help me," through the window. The driver has not signaled, has not stopped, and appears unaware that the child is attempting to communicate. Sir, can you continue to follow the vehicle? I can. I'm going to try to guide it toward the Sweetwater exit. I have club brothers meeting me there. Do not attempt to stop the vehicle yourself. We're dispatching units. Understood. I'll maintain visual. If you're watching this Asphalt Angels story, hit that hype button right now. It's free, takes 1 second, and helps this reach more people. Now, back to the story. The Sweetwater exit was 8 miles away. 8 miles of highway, 2 lanes, a van doing 70, and a biker doing 65, and a girl's hand pressed to the glass like a compass needle pointing at the only person who'd answered. Cole had to keep the van in sight without tipping the driver. He stayed 4 car lengths back, right lane, helmet forward, sunglasses on, just another bike on I-75, just another rider heading south. At mile marker 40, the van signaled right. It was taking the Sweetwater exit. Cole felt something unlock in his chest. The van was leaving the highway on its own. He didn't have to guide it. The exit ramp curved down to a 4-way intersection with a gas station on one corner and a Dollar General on the other. The van turned right toward the gas station. Ox was already there. His street glide was parked at the edge of the gas station lot, facing the road, and Ox was standing beside it, 6'4", 290 pounds, a retired battalion chief with a gray beard that reached his chest and forearms like bridge cables, tattooed from wrist to shoulder with Firefighter Memorial ink. He was drinking a bottle of water and watching the intersection with the casual intensity of a man who'd spent 30 years reading emergency scenes. The van pulled into the gas station and parked at pump 3. The driver got out, a man, maybe 40, medium height, wearing a baseball cap and a polo shirt, the kind of person who looks like every other person at every other gas station in the country. He walked inside to pay. He didn't look at the van. He didn't check the back seat. He just walked in. The girl's hand appeared again. This time, it pressed against the glass and stayed there. No wave, just the hand. 5 small fingers spread against the tinted window. Holding, piston pulled in from the south, then forge and clamp together from the east, then rivet from downtown Athens. 5 bikes, 5 large bearded men in black leather vests with Iron Creek patches parked at various points around the gas station lot. None of them approached the van. They didn't need to. They just were there, standing by their bikes, arms crossed, patches visible, filling the space the way mountains fill a valley. Cole parked at the pump island next to the van. He got off his bike. He didn't look at the van's window. He walked to the pump and started going through the motions of fueling. Card in, grade selected, nozzle in the tank. He was 4 feet from the van's rear passenger window. The girl was watching him through the glass. He could see her now without the highway speed and the tint and the angle. Brown hair, ponytail on day 3 or 4, a yellow t-shirt that was too big for her, and eyes that were so focused on his face that they didn't blink. He turned his head slightly. He held up his hand, low, by his hip, where the front of the van couldn't see, and gave her the smallest wave. 2 fingers. 3 seconds. The girl pressed both hands to the glass. The driver came back out. He was carrying a bag of chips and a fountain drink. He walked to the van. He opened the driver's door. He glanced at the back seat the way a person glances at luggage, checking that it's still there, not checking that it's okay. "Hey," Cole said. He was standing at his pump, nozzle still in his tank. "You know your right brake light is out?" The man paused. "What?" "Your right brake light. I was behind you on the highway. It's out. Might want to get that checked before you get pulled over." "Oh, thanks. I'll look at it." "Want me to check? I'm a mechanic." He wasn't, but a paramedic who runs a welding shop knows enough about vehicles to look convincing. "It's fine. I'll check later." "Your call. Safe travels." He paused. "That your daughter in the back? She was waving at me on the highway. Cute kid." The man's face didn't change. It held perfectly still, the way a face holds still when every muscle in it is being controlled. "She waves at everyone. She's autistic. Doesn't understand social cues." "Makes sense. My niece is on the spectrum too. What's her name?" "Lily." "How old?" 5. Cole nodded. He pulled the nozzle from his tank. He hung it up. He stood there for a moment, leaning against his bike, watching the man get in the van. The man started the engine. He put it in reverse. He looked in his mirror. Ox's Street Glide was parked directly behind the van. Ox was sitting on it, drinking his water, looking at his phone, 290 pounds of casual obstruction. The man shifted back to park. He got out. He walked toward Ox. "Hey man, can you move? I need to back out." Ox looked up from his phone. "Oh, sure, 1 second. Let me finish this text." He went back to looking at his phone. The man stood there. He looked at Cole. He looked at Piston, who was leaning against the air pump. He looked at Forge and Clamp, who were sitting on the curb sharing a bag of sunflower seeds. He looked at Rivet, who was standing by the ice machine with his arms crossed. "What the hell is going on?" "Saturday," Ox said, still looking at his phone. "If Asphalt Angels has become part of your week, consider joining the channel membership. Just a couple bucks a month keeps these stories coming. Links below, and hit that hype button if you haven't already." Now, back to the story. The Monroe County Sheriff's cruiser pulled in 3 minutes later, then a Tennessee Highway Patrol unit, then a second THP unit that had been running southbound on I-75 since Cole's 911 call and had been 7 minutes behind the van the entire time. The man's name was Dale Andrew Furness, 41 years old. The girl's name was Maisie Alder. She was 6. She was not his daughter. She was not autistic. She had not been waving at bikers because she didn't understand social cues. She had been waving at bikers because her mother had told her, once, sitting on the porch of their apartment in Dalton, Georgia, watching a group of Harleys pass on the road below. "If you're ever in trouble and you can't get to me, wave at a biker. They'll stop." Furness had taken Maisie from a Walmart parking lot in Dalton 11 days earlier. Maisie's mother, Andrea Alder, had been loading groceries into her car. Maisie was sitting in the cart. Andrea turned to put a bag in the trunk. The space between the cart and the trunk was 4 feet. The time was 6 seconds. And when she turned back, the cart was empty. No scream. No sound. Just an empty cart with a juice box still in the cup holder. Furness had driven north, through Chattanooga, up I-75 into Tennessee, staying on the interstate because he believed highways were anonymous. Millions of cars, no cameras at every mile, just motion and distance. He told Maisie her mother had gone on a trip and asked him to babysit. He told her they were driving to meet her mom. He told her if she talked to anyone, the police would take her away and she'd never see her mother again. For 9 days, Maisie had been quiet. She'd eaten what he gave her. She'd slept in the back seat. She'd been invisible. On day 10, at a rest stop near Calhoun, Maisie had seen a motorcycle in the parking lot. A sport bike, no patches, no vest, just a young guy in a leather jacket getting coffee. She'd pressed her hand to the glass and waved. He didn't see her. She waved again. Nothing. The van pulled away. Day 11. Saturday. I-75 southbound. She started waving at mile marker 109, just south of Knoxville, where the highway opens up and the bikes start appearing. She waved at a group of 3 Harleys near Lenoir City. They didn't look. She waved at a lone rider near Loudon. He was looking at his GPS. She waved at a couple on a Goldwing near Philadelphia. They were talking to each other. She waved at 2 sport bikes near Sweetwater. They were racing each other. She waved at Cole Brassier at mile marker 48. He was riding alone. He was in the right lane. He wasn't looking at his phone or his GPS or the scenery. He was scanning, the unconscious, constant visual sweep of a man who'd spent 13 years reading highway scenes from an ambulance windshield. Vehicles, speed, lane position, behavior. He saw the hand. He saw the wave. He saw the pattern that didn't match. And he waved back. 61 miles. 61 miles of pressing her palm to the glass and waving at anyone on 2 wheels because her mother had told her, once, on a porch, that bikers stop. 9 motorcycles had passed her in 61 miles. 8 of them didn't see her. 1 did. Andrea Alder got the call at 4:22 p.m. She was sitting in the parking lot of the Dalton Police Department, where she'd been going every afternoon for 11 days, to ask if there were updates. There were never updates. She sat in her car after every visit and stared at the building and thought about the juice box in the cup holder of the shopping cart. The juice box Maisie had been drinking, the one with the tiny teeth marks on the straw where Maisie always chewed the straw, the one that was still sitting in the evidence room somewhere, sealed in a bag, labeled with a case number, the last thing her daughter had touched before she disappeared. She drove from Dalton to Sweetwater in 1 hour and 45 minutes. She drove the way mothers drive when the phone finally rings, with both hands on the wheel and both feet wanting to push the accelerator through the floor and her daughter's name running through her head like a pulse. Maisie was in a room at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. She was sitting in a plastic chair, legs dangling, eating a granola bar a deputy had given her. Her ponytail was lopsided. Her yellow t-shirt had a small stain near the collar. Her sneakers were untied. She was humming, the low, toneless hum of a child who has been holding still for so long that the first thing her body does when it's safe is vibrate. Andrea came through the door. She stopped. Maisie looked up. The granola bar froze halfway to her mouth. "Mama." Andrea crossed the room in 3 steps. She didn't crouch. She didn't kneel. She scooped Maisie out of the chair, lifted her completely off the seat, both arms underneath, pulling her up and into her chest in one motion, and Maisie's legs wrapped around her waist, and her arms went around Andrea's neck, and the granola bar fell to the floor, and Andrea stood in the middle of the room, holding her daughter off the ground, supporting all of her weight, her face buried in Maisie's hair, breathing in the smell of a child who hadn't been washed properly in 11 days and smelled like gas station soap and car upholstery. And Andrea didn't care because under all of it was the smell she'd been memorizing since the delivery room, the specific, irreplaceable chemical signature of her daughter's skin. "You found me," Maisie said. Her voice was muffled against Andrea's shoulder. "I didn't find you, baby. You found me. You waved." They stood like that for a long time. Andrea holding Maisie off the ground, Maisie's legs around her waist, the granola bar on the floor. The deputy stepped out and closed the door and stood in the hallway and pressed his thumb and forefinger against the bridge of his nose, and took 3 breaths. Cole met Andrea in the parking lot 30 minutes later. Ox was still there, sitting on his bike in the dark, scrolling his phone, a cup of gas station coffee balanced on his tank. Piston had left to pick up his kid from a friend's house. Forge was asleep on a bench near the entrance, his beard resting on his chest like a blanket. Andrea walked out carrying Maisie. Maisie was wrapped in Andrea's jacket, the denim jacket Andrea had been wearing, wrapped around her daughter's shoulders like a cocoon. Maisie's head was on Andrea's shoulder. Her eyes were open. She saw Cole. She saw the vest. She saw the patches. She lifted her hand. She waved. The same wave, slow, deliberate, palm flat, fingers together. The wave she'd been practicing for 61 miles. Cole's jaw tightened. He lifted his hand and waved back. Same way. Slow. Deliberate. Andrea looked at Cole. Her eyes were swollen. Her voice was steady. The deputy told me you were the one, that you saw her waving and called it in. She did the hard part. I just answered. She waved at 9 bikes. 9. You were the only one who waved back. Cole looked at Maisie. Why'd you keep waving? After the first ones didn't see you? Maisie lifted her head from Andrea's shoulder. Mama said bikers stop. She said wave at a biker, so I kept waving. I thought maybe I wasn't doing it right, so I practiced. I made it slow so they could see. Nobody spoke. The parking lot was quiet. A moth hit the sodium light above them and bounced away. Andrea stepped forward and hugged Cole with one arm, Maisie still on her hip, still wrapped in the jacket. Cole put his hand on Andrea's shoulder and held it there, firm, grounded, the way a paramedic stabilizes a patient, steady pressure in one place. He didn't wrap around. He held the shoulder. Maisie reached out from the jacket and put her small hand on the back of Cole's tattooed fist, the one that read, "First," and she held it there, her fingers barely covering 2 of his knuckles, and the 3 of them stood in the parking lot under the sodium light with the moth bouncing overhead, and nobody let go first. The Iron Creek MC of Knoxville, Tennessee, now sponsors a program called Wave Back. At motorcycle rallies, charity rides, and biker events across East Tennessee, they distribute reflective wristbands to riders. Orange bands printed with a simple message. Wave back. It might be the only signal they can send. The wristbands glow in headlights. They catch sunlight on the highway. They're a reminder that the kid pressing their hand to the glass in the car ahead might not be playing. They might be asking. At the Iron Creek annual poker run, Maisie Alder stands on a chair behind a folding table and hands out the wristbands herself, and she tells every biker the same thing. Wave back, even if you're not sure. Wave back. Because I waved 9 times and only 1 person answered. Maisie Alder is 7 now. She's in 1st grade in Dalton. She draws motorcycles in her notebooks, not the bikes themselves, but the patches. Rectangles and diamonds and rockers, colored in with markers, covering the pages like a patchwork quilt. Her teacher asked her once what the drawings were. "Those are the good ones," Maisie said. "You can tell by the patches." Andrea still parks at the back of every parking lot so she can see the cart return from her car. She hasn't used a shopping cart since. She carries her groceries in her arms, 2 bags at a time, and Maisie walks beside her holding the hem of her jacket, and they never talk about why. Cole keeps the photos he took of the van's license plate on his phone. He hasn't deleted them. He looks at them sometimes. 3 blurry photos of a Georgia plate on a blue Dodge Caravan, taken one-handed at 65 miles per hour on I-75, and he thinks about what those photos are. They're not evidence. The case is closed. They're a reminder that 9 bikes passed a waving child and 8 of them didn't look, and the only difference between a girl who came home and a girl who didn't was a retired paramedic who still scanned the road like every drive was a call. Be the one who waves back. Thank you for watching this story. If it reminded you that a wave is the smallest gesture with the biggest consequence, please share it. Subscribe to Asphalt Angels for more stories proving that patches aren't decoration. They're a promise. Tell us in the comments, has someone's small gesture ever changed your life?